It's the morning show that overslept. Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla.
Oh, yes, it sure is. We are coming to you live from the greatest country in the world. It is Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla. Fired up. Thrilled, in fact, to have this next guest in studio. He is a military hero. He is a Fox Nation host, and he's pretty good with directions. I will explain. Johnny Joey Jones is here. Hey, man.
Hey, what's going on?
You are the first person that I have given directions to the Fox studio that it didn't end with us sending out the St. Bernard with brandy under its neck. Is that old Marine training right there?
No, you had a gracious, I think, producer that picked me up and brought me over here. So.
Damn it, so you couldn't have made it.
Listen, when the directions are, get off the elevator and take a right, and there's two sets of elevators that face each other, there's where you're going wrong.
I saw you coming down the hall, and I thought I finally got one right. So you're telling me it is me. Because everybody needs a friend to level with them. Is it me?
If you're walking off C, turn towards H. You see what I'm saying? You have a landmark here.
All right. Well, I was excited to see you until now. Listen, what you tweeted I consider to be the best summation of what's going on in Afghanistan right now. Here is the tweet for people if they don't follow Johnny Joey on Twitter. What is your handle? It's such a great follow.
It's Johnny, Johnny _Joey, Joey.
I always forget because I have you blocked, but I kid. But the summation was cowards kill innocent people. Cowards gave them the opportunity. National disgrace, global tragedy. And that's essentially the State of the Union right now, is it not?
That's how I feel. And I know that's charged, and I know it's name calling, and I usually try to stay away from that unless it's completely in fun. But those are my brothers and sisters. Matter of fact, I'm talking to a Marine right now who's interpreter in 2014 and 15, came here, got legal status, became a citizen. Last year went back to Afghanistan for traditional marriage, married a young woman. She's 9 months pregnant. She was standing at the spot where this bomb went off today at 6 a.m. this morning. And my buddy's brother, who's also a Marine in Kabul, went out there and got her and brought her in at 6 a.m. A few hours later, this happens. And my point there is those are a lot of people whose lives are not only touched but potentially lost over this that I'm connected to. And so if you're a commander-in-chief right now, I just don't have much sympathy for you. I don't have much empathy for you.
No, I agree. I think a lot of people feel the same way, mainly because the situation that's ensuing, for one, was eminently avoidable. It didn't have to go down this way. But even now, for two, it feels like for a lot of people, man, we're still seeing the politics come before the people. There was a little bit of Secretary of State Blinken was basically saying, hey, we warned these people, but we didn't warn them that the troops were going to leave before the civilians, did we?
Okay, let me tell you about this guy. He's a U.S. citizen, right?
Yeah.
What if he were in Afghanistan right now, trying to get his wife to Kabul, all right? She's 9 months pregnant. She says, there's no way I'm leaving without my mother and father. I need them there when my baby's born.
Yeah.
All right? The U.S. government says you can't bring your parents. All right, what does he do? He's a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
He stays there and tries to get her to go as long as he can. What if the day that she's like, okay, I'll leave my mother and father is tomorrow? Now we have a U.S. citizen, his unborn child and wife, who have every legal right in the world to get home, and the U.S. government says, oh, well, it's your fault.
Yeah.
That's the scenario. That's not a hypothetical. That is truth on the ground today.
That's what's happening. I mean, that is the reality, that we're living in a moment where Americans are, for all intents and purposes, kind of being abandoned by the government. And the reason I say that, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, is because there's one way in, there's one way out. It's controlled by the Taliban. Our State Department is saying don't go to the airport. So essentially, Jen Psaki's claim that nobody's trapped, we all threw the challenge flag the second we heard it, but now we can confirm that upon further review, there's no way that play could stand as called.
Thank God for Peter Doocy on that. And what looked like an argument, a tit for tat over semantics, was an important piece of journalistic work, because these are the words that are going to go down in infamy or history. These are the words that people in Afghanistan need to understand. And whether or not you are stranded is a big deal, because if Americans are stranded, we have an obligation to go get them. So if he can, that's the reason why that exchange happened. But ultimately, what's so frustrating about this that no one's talking about, because we live in a news cycle, 2 weeks ago, the headlines were, U.S. veterans are outraged that their interpreters can't get visas to come home. This administration had the embassy closed down for COVID, all right? So the idea, we're calling a withdrawal an evacuation because that's what it is. You don't evacuate You don't evacuate summer homes when the summer starts to draw down and you're snowbirding back.
The leaves are changing. Yeah. We're going to evacuate.
No, you evacuate the hurricane.
Yeah.
You know, that shows up unpredicted and unannounced.
Yeah, that's a great point. Johnny Joey Jones is with us in studio, a studio he had no problem finding thanks to my fine directions. Let me ask you this, because I get a lot of messages from veterans who listen to this show who have told me that on some level, and it breaks my heart when I hear this, that they feel like on some level their contributions have been tarnished by the ensuing chaos in Afghanistan. And I don't believe that's true on any level, because I think this is a byproduct of the administration's ineptitude. But has Joe Biden lost the people in the military, in terms of their confidence in his leadership?
I don't know many that ever supported him, because we remember what it was like to go to Afghanistan in 2010 and 9 when he was vice president. 40,000 of us went there. Mm-hmm. The deadliest years in Afghanistan were 10, 11, and 12. Mm-hmm. And is 100% our belief that was specifically and solely for the purpose of Obama prematurely claiming victory and winning in 2012. Mm-hmm. So our lives have already been political cannon fodder for Joe Biden when he was vice president. And the minute he starts saying he inherited this, any credibility he might have had gets laughed at and thrown out the door. I mean, you don't get to be vice president for 8 years of this war and talk about inheriting it. That's such an idiotic thing to try to do.
It's a really good point, man, and not a lot of people have made that, and I appreciate you saying it. This is something that they were presiding over. This is something that they wanted the credit, obviously, of getting everybody out by September 11th. But again, to me, that seems more about symbolism than about, human prosperity. Is he detached? Does he seem detached? People gave him hell for laughing yesterday. I think that's terrible form by him. But on a larger scale, do you think there is a detachment there?
Look, I'm full of grace, and you get grace from me in situations all the time. Mm-hmm. But when that's all you ever do is something that causes me to give you grace, my bank's going to run out, and then I'm going to say, okay, well, maybe you're just rotten. Yeah. Maybe you're just not right for this. And the guy's been there for 47 years. I don't know if he's detached or doesn't care. I think it's all baked in. I think today is baked in. I think he believes 3 months from now this is a win. Mm-hmm. I don't know why he thinks that. And I think that in the beginning, the press made it so easy to blame Trump, blame Trump, blame Trump. He thought he had that ace in the hole. He's like, well, if this turns into a bad situation, we're blaming Trump. Yeah. And to his, befuddlement, that didn't happen.
Well, that's what's funny about what's playing out in the sense that he thought he had an S&M safe word in his back pocket with this media, because they could always trot out the Trump card and the media would back off. But he's starting to realize just how transactional they are, because this is a lesson that Andrew Cuomo kind of learned. The media builds these people up, but if these people don't pan out, the media can't distance themselves from their creations fast enough.
That's exactly right. And what's he doing? He's making them look bad because they've carried his water
forever. I mean,
exactly.
This was supposed to be the steady hand of the till. He had told us in the election he had 47 years of foreign policy experience, and he was the guy for the I mean, really think about that. It's insane.
And nobody is more war hawkish than Hillary Clinton and Lindsey Graham than perhaps the media. I mean, the media is a war, and not for the same reasons. It's a virtue thing, right? We owe it to them to go save them, and so the media is already protective of that narrative. Plus, they've been in on it for 20 years, so they really can't turn around now. And so he's really not making any friends, and it makes it very difficult for them to continue to allow him to blame Trump for things they can go out and do some pretty easy reporting on.
Easy reporting. Let me ask you this. Do you think we're getting into a situation now? We're told, obviously, the airport's closed. There's hundreds of ISIS-K militants in the area. Do you think we're going to be forced to open another airport, another airbase or something?
I don't know. Yeah. Because here's the deal. I don't have faith in this administration to do what makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Okay.
So I don't know.
No, I get it.
Listen, I hope there's some virtuous gladiator, Maximus style general or a colonel on the ground in Kabul right now, a Marine or a soldier, who just does the right dang thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is, but I know it's probably not going to be easy to get permission to do.
Yeah.
And I hope that there's somebody there who says, go and take care of our guys and gals.
That'd be great if it was, because, I mean, what we're watching play out, everybody has such a helpless feeling because people want to help. There's not a lot they can do over here other than, yell at the president to get his act together. But, he's... There
are people jumping on planes and going there.
Yeah, I know.
That blows my mind. We have civilians that most of them are trained, and I've got a good friend who spent the last 8 months rescuing sex trafficked women in South America, and he's got all the credentials and training. He's former Green Beret, and he got a text a couple of days ago, said, "Hey, within 96 hours, we need these many guys with these many skill sets to go to Afghanistan for 10 days to do this mission."
Wow.
and they're all civilians. I mean, they're trained, and most of them are former operators.
Wait, isn't this the screenplay from The Expendables?
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I caught you. I'm kidding.
And Randy Couture's a good friend of mine. And he's an actual Army veteran. I need to call and make sure he's not on a plane right now because Randy's in his 60s. I mean, not to say he couldn't do it, but I kind of want my buddy to stick around. You know?
Oh, I do too, man. It's tough, man. You know, this is one of those moments where, and I've been experiencing this with you on Twitter a little bit. Some people are so hardwired for the partisan infighting that they don't realize the difference between a political point and an American point.
That's right.
And I feel like everything you've said today is an American point. These are American lives. This is something that affects every one of us in terms of what becomes of Afghanistan. And, you know, my only hope, I'm always trying to, offer people some type of, solution or some type of optimistic path forward. Do you think a situation like this might ultimately inspire this country to get back to playing team ball?
Probably not.
No.
Here's the truth of it on the partisan side. I can't tell you that a dozen Democrats would not have handled this better because they probably would have. And I can't say with certainty Trump wouldn't have done worse. I don't know that. I don't think he would have, but we're not in that situation. But what I do know is Joe Biden is president, and this is a mess.
Thank you.
That's what I do know.
That's all it is. No, that's it. That's the guy. Like that's the thing that drives me crazy is the pitcher lets up 5 runs in the first inning. It doesn't go on yesterday's ERA. The guy who pitched yesterday is not on the mound today. That's the thing that drives me so crazy about our politics is that, but Trump, yes, Trump did want to withdraw, but he didn't want to withdraw like this. Nobody wanted to withdraw like this.
You know what this is in that analogy? This is being down 12-0 in the 6th and coming off the mound complaining about run support.
You guys ain't hitting. I mean, how am I going to win a game if you guys
That's exactly right. Yeah.
That's a better one. You topped me this time. Johnny Joey. Who saw it coming? Last question. You were saying earlier that, your buds in the military never really had a lot of faith in Joe Biden given his record. But have you heard reports, because I have, and I've seen it reported on our air from time to time, that he has been ignoring the advice of his top leadership? Is that a thing?
The guys I talked to wouldn't know.
Okay,
I mean, and that's okay. Like I was in E6 when I got out.
Well, don't apologize for that because the guys I know are only playing Call of Duty. The guys you talk to are actually serving their heroes.
Let me tell you who I do trust. I trust the incomparable Jennifer Griffin.
Yeah.
And she doesn't come across as a partisan person to me. And that's exactly what she's reported.
Yes.
And also, I mean, I was told last week by a source on the Hill that is it Milley or Miley? I guess General Milley was calling Republican members of Congress trying to cover his butt.
Really?
And so I believe that the military, even the military political establishment at this point, they can't jump ship fast enough, but there's nowhere to go. They all own it at this point.
They do. Are you surprised more people haven't resigned just to that was something that was floated earlier rather than going through with this mission that was as inept as it was?
In the DOD, there's no one that would resign right now.
Really?
But that's the honor code, right? You stick the mission through.
Okay. All right, I get that.
But as far as the State Department, they probably feel much the same way. I mean, those are DOD light folks, right? I mean,
but let me ask you this: Does anybody, maybe on a DOD light level, do people ever own mistakes anymore, or no?
No, because it's not. It's there's nothing to gain from it.
Is that what it is? But would you argue, I would argue that there is. I was saying this earlier. I think showing that humility would give people more faith in your leadership, I think, than the brazen lying.
It took JFK fumbling his way through a blockade called the Cuban Missile Crisis to make up for the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
And he screwed up by admitting he did wrong there.
He did.
I mean, that's how politics works.
I do want to defend him because he was shacking up with Marilyn Monroe during that period.
Yeah.
And I can promise you your head wouldn't have been a little distracted too, Joey Jones.
Yeah,
you're a devout family man and all.
This is a Gutfeld moment. You're going to put me in the corner over here.
I had to warm up. You're my sparring partner. I'm on the air tonight at 11. I got to fill your shoes from last night. Listen, man, I always love you coming in. You can take any toy out with you.
Well, I'm going to take this one that's worth about $5.
Don't you dare.